Hey mages, welcome to today's MTG Arena video. Today we are doing some budget decks. I've got some really cool budget decks for you, and these are all competitive. So when I do competitive budget decks, I like no more than 10 rares. So usually it's between 5 and 10. Whereas we know in the meta, a lot of the top meta decks are all 25, 30, 40 plus rares. So even with these just having, no more than, 10 as a max, it's still very budget for Arena. So before we get on to today's videos, just want to say a big shout out to the Patreons. Thank you very much for that support. If that's something you're interested in or want to give me some extra support, please go and check out the link down below. And if you want to pick up any of these cards in paper, you can go and check out Cardmarket down below as well. But let's get on to today's decks. So the first deck we're going for is a very popular meta deck at the moment, which is Fairies, and we've got a really cool budget version for you here with just the 5 rares. So first of all, we're going to look at the 5 rares that we're putting into this deck. Got Sleep Curse Fairy, really good. This is a 3/3 flying ward 2, can come down turn 1 if we have it in hand, which is nice. Ends the battlefield tapped with 3 stun counts on it, so you are going to get punished for this amazing 3/3 1-drop that has ward 2 and flying. You wouldn't expect anything else with something as powerful as this. You can actually pay 2 to untap it, so you can get those counters off quicker if you can, but if this can just go down their turn 1, generally with the ward 2, they're not going to be killing it at least till turn 3, which is really good for this, and then it can just start attacking in there. The other rare that I'm putting into this one is Fairy Mastermind. I chose what I think were the best 2 rares from the Fairies to put into this deck, and this one, Flash, whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, we get to draw a card as well. So you can flash this in as they're about to draw their second card, and then we get to draw a card as well. And it's just nice flashing in an end of turn, and it's a 2/1 flyer, so it works with really good evasion. So the rest of this deck will work on the basis that the fairies, the way the fairy deck plays, which is using Obra, Dreaming Julius. Whenever fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So you use this as the drain and gain. It is another card that has flash as well, so it can be put in at end of opponent's turn, and then we can start playing some more fairies in there. Now, we have 21 creatures in this deck and 15 non-creatures. This will play as like a budget control aggro deck. We do have counter spells in there. We've got Spell Stutter that works very well with fairies. Obviously, counter target spell and control pays 2. Then the additional 1 for each fairy that we control as well. We've got Ego Drain that can attack a player's hand, reveal their hand, choose a non-land card from it. Player discard it. If you don't control a fairy, exile a card from your hand. Hopefully, we will be doing that unless we have an abundance of land that we can just play this and then not worry about exiling a land card as well. This deck also has some really good removal in Fairy Fencing that's perfect for the fairy deck. It's a fairy themed removal card. Gets -X until end of turn. That creature gets an additional -3/3 to end of turn. If you control the fairies, you can cast this spell. So they can kill your fairy, but just as long as you controlled it as you cast this, then all is good, and you can do that extra bit of damage as well. And then we've got the usual go for the throat, the just premium removal for 2 mana. Looking at some of the other creatures that we do have in the deck, we got Fairy Dream Thief. It's a 1/1, enters battle, surveil, help find maybe what you need. Then you can exile it from your graveyard, draw a card, lose a life. Then we got Picklock Prankster. So mill full cards, then put an instant sorcery card or fairy card from one of the mill cards into your hand. We can do this at instant speed, end of turn again. We're a controlling Trixie type of deck, and then it's a Flying Vigilance 1/3 as well, which is still good, and another fairy obviously that can trigger Obra, which is what we want. But using that, free the Fae, milling the 4 cards, and then hopefully filling our hand, getting something in our hand that's really good, and finding hopefully what you need. Last creature in there, Halo Forager, 3/1 flyer. Nice tempo card. Ends the battlefield. You pay X. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value X from the graveyard without paying its mana cost, and then it has to exile. So goes very well with Picklock Prankster, where we can mill cards and put them into the graveyard, and Halo Forager can use them as well. So when you do, you just pay that X. So late game, this is still good, and just another flyer that can get the job done. So with this kind of evasion deck that we've got with the fairies, they're all flying flying over the top. It's a very good aggro tempo, and it's very easy to upgrade this deck as well. Adding in a couple more Sleep Cursed Fairies, Fairy Mastermind can just be up for one. You really do want to up these. I mean, as much as Picklock Prankster is good, I maybe possibly wouldn't have that in the main deck if I was doing that. There's a lot, lot of different other rare fairies that can come in here, as you can see, as you know from the deck, if you've come across it, that can do a job as well. But this budget version is great to start with. Now, what I will say with all of these decks, if you can, play them as is, if you've only got the cards here that I'm showing you, but if you can upgrade the lands, it would only add more consistency. I've done this, to keep this under 10 rares. There's some decks further on that do actually get to play some of the rare lands as well, but we're going in here with a Waterfront District. It can draw cards. We've got Dismal Backwater as well, gain a little bit of life, sometimes nice against the aggro decks, and then an abundance of planes as well. But if you want to, add in the different lands, the ones you want to be adding in are your Underground Rivers, your Dark Slick Shores, anything like that. Will just, any number you've got, just exchange them for the basics, or maybe take some of the tap lands out if you want to do that as well. But that goes for all the decks. Definitely will make them a lot more consistent. But let's get on to the next decks now. Now, talking about rare lands, I've got a couple in this one. This is a budget prowess deck, so Timor Prowess. One of my favourite cards is Questing Druid that was spawned from the new set. This is whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black or red, put a 1/1 counter on it. Now we only have a couple of green cards in this deck. As you can see, we've got Royal Treatment for protection, and it creates a roll token as well, gives a creature +1/1 and ward 1, so a nice bit of protection there as well. But the only other one we run is Questing Druid. Just literally, it's not prowess, but it gets the counters on. So whereas prowess just gives them +1/1 potential to end of turn, this is like a prowess-esque type of creature but with counters, and it can really get out of hand. So you can use Seek the Beast in this as well to exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of next turn. You may play those cards. So this for me is an automatic 3 of in there. And, trying to keep it under 10. If you've got the 4th, smash it in there without a doubt. The other rares in the deck, so Jaya, Fiery Negotiator, can make prowess tokens. So it just seems perfect for this deck, going in there as a one-off. Exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one, play that card as the -1, which is nice. You then got a -2 and a -8, where you can get an emblem where you cast a red instant source spell, copy it twice, choose new target. So keep plussing them. We do have instants and sorceries in red that we can do this. We've got Play with Fire. We've got Monstrous Rage in there to, activate the prowess, get tokens on, give them trample so they can go over the top, and then a +2/+0. And then we've got Lightning Strike as well, which is just, another 3 damage to the dome. But if you ever get there, potentially we are winning a lot quicker than we get to that -8. We're amassing the field with those monks, and then all of our prowess creatures as well, like Monastery Swiss Spear we've got. One of the other rares in there is a 4 of prowess. It's the Elusive Otter. So prowess has creatures with power or less than Elusive Otter's power can't block it as well. And we can obviously play Grove's Bounty for the green spell as well if we decide. But sometimes I do just like getting this in there turn 1, getting the prowess creature down. If we haven't got a Swiss Spear in there, the Otter can come down and start the attacking and do some work. More prowess in Dwarven Forge Chanter. Ward, pay 2 life, prowess, 1/3, and then we've got Kenra Spell Spear as well, trample prowess, and this one can flip into the Cataxian Spellstalker, trample, ward 2, and then you got double prowess. So flipping that over can turn into an absolute beater, and the trample on this is what makes this card really, really good. Other spells in the deck, we've got Consider to surveil and draw cards, and then we've also, I spoke about the Play with the Fire and Lightning Strike to do damage as well. So the other rares in this deck are going in some of the lands. So we've got a couple of Yavimar Coast, we've got a Capuchin Forest, and we've got a Shivan Reef, and then we've got, because we don't really want too many tap lands, but where we are playing Timor, we've got 3 colours, so we need to do that. So with this deck, the creature base is fine as it is. I would say maybe add another Questing Druid if you can. But what I would then obviously do is upgrade these lands again for this deck, just to make it a lot more consistent. But this land base is a little bit better on us, so we're using some of those rares and still keeping below the 10. If I just have a quick count, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 rares in total, so that's still a very good budget deck, and the prowess deck is really fun to play. 17 creatures, 21 non-creatures, and a CMC average of 1.4, so very low on that. But you want to be getting your lands and sometimes be able to chain off multiple spells. But this is a really good aggro deck. Now we go to a budget mono white aggro build, and the rares in this, I love this. The virtues in this in Wilds of Eldraine, I think they're really cool, and we get to use Virtue of Loyalty in this one. We do like the pay 2 for the Arden Vale Fealty to create a token. It has Vigilance as well, so it adds an extra creature to the battlefield. And at beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control and untap them. So that is just an absolutely amazing effect, and will really build up a massive army. And we get to untap, so we get to block after attacking as well. So other rares in the deck, Eldraine, powerful, star 4, gets as big as the amount of creatures on the field, and we do have quite a few creatures. We got 30 creatures in this deck, and obviously abilities to make the tokens as well. 8 non-creature spells, very good. You've seen how good mono white can be, and this budget version can get the job done. I've been playing with this one, it's been so good. Other rares in the deck, so in this one we do have, 9 rares in total. We've got Intrepid Adversary, just as a couple of, because this late game, you're better off putting it down when you can pay that extra cost of the 2 mana any number of times. Putting all 1/1 counters on them would be really good. And then we have Spellbook Vendor. This human peasant, really strong. You know, this is better than I thought it was going to be. The Vigilance is good. It's a 2/2 for 2, which is nice. Getting to use that extra mana that you just don't use, because we don't really have instants and sorceries. So, you know, using our mana is fine, and we get to put a little token on it, an aura roll where it gets +1/1 and helps us scry and find other creatures that we want as well. So the rares in this are very nice for the deck. Going to the other creatures, Cheeky House Mouse. It is sorcery, but we can give a creature +1/1 to end a turn. Can't be blocked with creatures power 3 or greater, so we can get in there when an opponent puts their Sheoldreds and stuff like that. We can still keep getting through, which is very nice. And then we have Recruitment Officer. A lot of these cards you will see in the main mono white deck, which is what makes this so strong as well. Ambitious Farmhand to find a bit of land, and then potentially use Coven to turn it into a 3/3. We got Cathar Commando, flashing it in. Still 3/1 for 2 is massive, and then it has a bit of a removal on it as well for us to use. Copper Cup Vanguard, one of the best uncommons for us. It gives all the humans +1/0, and Ward 1 gives them that extra pump, and it's not legendary, which means we can then put multiples these on the field and get some extra power in there. I do love mono white. It's just such a good consistent deck, this one. Rafine's Informant, ends the battlefield, it connives. So to have a creature connive, draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard on land, we get to put a 1/1 counter on it. So could be a potential 3/2 for 2, which is very nice as well, adding that extra power in. The removal we do have, we've got 3 lay down arms, which works perfectly with just 22 basic planes, and then we got Ossification as well to deal with problematic creatures, or, you know, a lot of the times it will deal with the planeswalkers. So not many other spells needed in this one. The Virtue obviously as well. Upgraded this deck, potentially with these, we do run a few spells in this, so you could run Thalia as a potential card in there, but we do run a little bit, but you know, it's only 8 spells, so Thalia would be an upgrade. But this deck as is just works perfectly as is. You don't need to change this one too much. It's very consistent. What I maybe would do if you want to upgrade possibly is add an extra Eldraine, just because they're so good, and maybe just drop one of your Cheeky Mouse. That's probably the only swap that I would do. I think this deck is one of the strongest out of the lot, and yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with this one. I had a lot of success as well. We now go on to a mono red deck. So mono red deck's very competitive and can always be done on a budget and still be very, very strong. So the rares that we have in this one, we have 3 Godric, the new card from Wilds of Eldraine, haste. As long as 2 and 1 online permanents come in, it then gets base toughness at 4/4. Dragons you control get +1/+0 as well, so it comes flying. It's just such a really good card, Godric. I really like this, you know, attacking in for the 4/4. Other rares in the deck as well, we got a couple of Felden. This is a 2/2, helps with a bit of card draw, so we've tried to keep this one as budget as I can. So this one has 8 rares in. The new mono red has a lot of rares in, so the meta mono red, you know, is pushing over 15-20 rares, which is, you know, quite good, but this version is still good and consistent. So Charming Scoundrel is a good new card, and it helps trigger with Godric, getting those 2 permanents in. You can put a treasure token in or a wicked roll token. It's got haste as well, so it can come down down. If you're short on a little bit of land, you can use the treasure token and maybe use a spell for that to use as removal. But I'm very happy putting these two together in the deck, and they're good additions to mono red, and Felden is just the rare that is just really good, and people don't like to block it because it gives you potential cards. Land base, very simple, 22. Other cards in this deck are very similar to the mono red, like Kumanu. We got Monastery Swiftspear, we got the Phoenix, obviously Chick as well, Play with Fire. Then we go a little bit different, so we do use Lithomatic Barrage in the main. Helps against those white decks. So I'm just talking about mono white. This can really help against that. So in there is a couple of it. It's just a sorcery card, and we're using combat tricks in this as well. Monstrous Rage, get a creature in, get a monster roll token in. Good for Godric as well. So this is a nice little combat trick when you've got prowess creatures like this as well, or you're trying to fly over the top. Card draw, we're using Reckless Impulse as 2 of them as well, and 3 Wren's Resolve. So again, you know, we hopefully won't fall out of cards in our hand in this deck, which is what mono red can run out of steam sometime, but we've got plenty of ways to either put stuff in exile to replay cards to our next turn, or, you know, it's all draw cards as well with Charming Scoundrel, where we can discard and draw in case we're getting a little bit flooded with our 22 lands. So all in all, this deck version, this budget version of mono red has a bit of everything, has the creature power, has the card draw power, and has the removal power as well, and doing damage to the dome. So this mono red is ultra consistent as always, like mono red always is. 16 creatures, 22 non-creatures, and a CMC of 1.5, so very, very low. This is a great deck for beginners as well, I feel, and not too many rares. If you haven't got the full amounts of these, just cut them down a bit and maybe, you know, add in another Monstrous Rage, or you can, you know, just find another really good creature to add in as well. But yeah, this, as always, budget red is a good deck to go up with the ladder without a doubt. So the last deck we have is a budget Enchantments deck. Enchantments, very good meta deck, very strong, has a heap of rares in, but we've got the budget version here, and as you can see, it's very low on the rares as well. So we've got our Yenna there that comes in as a new addition. Choose target enchantment control that doesn't have the same name as another permanent control. Create a token copy, which is just absolutely amazing in this deck. Hallowed Halton is one of the other rares as well. Just good. Normally see multiple of these in the deck, and then Calyx is in there as a 3 of with Catilda. So this one very low, 6 rares, 6 rares only is very, very low for this type of competitive deck. Has a lot of the same, you know, cards in there from the main version, like Generous Visitor, Yukai, Spirited Companion, cards that you know very well. We've then got Ambitious to go and find a land for us, so we don't miss out on that. But then has some, you know, some different cards. We got Stroke of Midnight in there, destroy target non-land permanent. They get a 1/1 creature, but that is just really good for 3 mana. And we're going with Royal Treatment to protect our creatures as well. So give them hexproof, and then we get the 1/1 and give them bit ward 1, which also helps with protection as well. So that adds another added bit of spice to this deck. Machiku in there, give creature +1/1 to end of turn for each artifact and enchantment you control, so it can be absolutely massive, and then turn into a creature as well. Audacity to get the trample and go over. This deck is just so good and very consistent. More removal, single off Circle of Confinement. It just has a bit of everything, this one. We like really good removal in the theme that you want in enchantments as well. And then just, you know, it just builds up power. It really is. It's such a powerful deck. And for the 6 rares, you're going to be taking this deck, and you can stick with this deck as is and just keep grinding, you know, keep grinding that ladder with this budget version, and then you will get the wins. I will say upgrading the lands, as always, is very good and make it more consistent. We've got Blossoming Sands in here, we've got Botanical Plazas, and then lots of basics, but you can just add them in, like we say, with the coloured lands that you want to go in brush lands and maybe Razor Thickets or overgrown farmland, whichever ones you have in your collection, will just make this deck even better and even stronger. I love the addition, you know, putting Yenna in this. I played this in Brawl. It's really fun and really powerful. So it's great as a top end, as a 4 mana, and it's a 4/4. It's very good. In there as a single of, not essential to the deck, but it is nice. And being able to copy, you know, token copies of the enchantments is very good. Copying your ossification, copying your circle. You only get to do it once, but it's very cool. This deck, I know, is a favourite with a lot of my followers on here, and certainly some patrons as well. They do love the enchantments, but yeah, this is a very strong deck. So there's 5 budget decks for you, all 10 rares and under, so super budget. And hopefully you'll have a lot of these rares in some of these decks and you'll be able to try maybe a couple of them, or, you know, definitely worthy of putting some rares into this with some faith that they will perform rather well. The enchantment decks, the mono white, the reds, fairies just does really well as well. The budget prowess, I think, will need the upgrade of the lands just to be a lot more consistent, is what I've found from practice, but still works very well as is. So smash the like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help out. Leave me a little comment below. I always respond to everyone's comments as quickly as I can. So thank you for watching today's video. You take care, and I'll see you on the next one.